It has been, bizarre, crazy, ridiculous. Like, we joke about it, but it's literally like a soap opera.
The Bullring in Johannesburg, where just a few hours ago the South Africans sewed up a remarkable 3-1 victory over Australia. This has been a momentous 5 weeks, and we shall try to tell the story of a cricket series that turned into theatrical drama.
I was really looking forward to the series. I mean, you've got two great sides. I mean, two sides that I've had a lot to do with, two countries over the years, which for me it was a little different as well. But two high-octane pace attacks, and that's the most exciting aspect of Test cricket as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I anticipated some very hard-fought and interesting cricket. As a former fast bowler, I was looking forward to these two bowling attacks.
I mean, they're never-say-die teams, aren't they? And there were some class cricketers on show, and I was expecting some real quality cricket.
Well, the rivalry's always been absolutely tremendous, hasn't it? So the expectations, I think, from the Australian side of things was very, very positive.
AB de Villiers apart and Smith apart, but the rest of the batsmen on both sides were probably the weak links against some good bowling, quality bowling from both sides.
It began, of course, with the Australians off the back of an impressive Ashes win and the South Africans having beaten the #1 Test-ranked side in the world, India, here at home.
Yeah, leading up before the series, Australia coming off a pretty successful Ashes win. I thought they were just starting to get a good side again.
They totally dominated England. So the expectation coming into South Africa was that we had a very good side together.
You know, there was so much hype around this series, and I was just looking forward to the cricket that was going to happen.
There's an odd sort of quirk to the series in that South Africa always seem to win in Australia and Australia always win here. In fact, the last time South Africa won at home against the Australians was that famous series, the 4-0 defeat in 1969-70.
Australia have got a really good record here in South Africa itself over quite a few years. Yeah, I think we're cock a hoop about our chances.
We started at Kingsmead in Durban. The toss was won by Steve Smith. He was pleased to have the chance to bat first, and he sent David Warner and Cameron Bancroft out to open up for him.
That first Test match just about had it all. I mean, winning the toss was really important as far as Australia's concerned, and that gave them the upper hand.
Well, almost as expected, with Smith and Warner doing good things, and Mitchell Marsh, we thought he'd really matured as a Test match cricketer, in particular with the bat in hand. He had some good performances against England. He continued on his good form.
We're about to break through, about to make them sweat a bit, and he comes and scores basically 100. That's huge.
That Mitchell Marsh partnership with the tail sort of enabled to get a good score on a tough pitch.
And of course we expected the fast bowling group to do good things, which they did, particularly Mitchell Starc, with the reverse swinging ball, at times unplayable.
And that little bit of reverse swing from Mitchell Starc has claimed the wicket.
Fantastic performance, and especially when he was getting the ball to reverse, when he started to go wide on the crease, coming round the wicket, the left-hander bowling to right-handers and slanting it in and then taking it away from the right-handers. Very, very difficult to negotiate those sort of deliveries, and I think he bowled those beautifully.
South Africa were in a position where maybe they might be able to fight back and try and post a decent first innings score. He ripped through the tail.
Beautifully bowled. 5 for Mitch Starc. Outstanding bowling from the big quick. And South Africa were all out to 162.
Starc was almost unplayable with the speedy bowled, the late reverse swing he got. Markram was brilliant. I mean, that was great to see him get 100, because people talked about this being a test for him, and he was so determined. He's such a wonderful player, and for him to get 100 against Australia in the second dig in those sort of conditions, was important for him, I think, to kick him into the series as well.
Started against Bangladesh, Zimbabwe. Are you really tested against those? Not really. Came and did a good job against India, and then the next challenge was probably from a stronger bowling lineup with regards to pace. Could he adapt and produce the goods there?
I've always liked Aiden Markram. You know, from the very beginning when I saw him batting here in South Africa at the beginning of this summer, I thought to myself, this guy will go far.
He goes into bat in that second innings. At some stage he gets a decent start. He runs AB out, which as a youngster you're going to think, you know, this is, I don't know if he ran AB, maybe I'm being unfair, but there was miscommunication and AB was run out.
You wouldn't believe it. David Warner, isn't he pumped up?
As a young man, you can sometimes allow that to get you. There's a lot of talk on the stump marks to him after the incident, also about his ability, but he managed to just put all that out of the system, focus on the ball, and I was really impressed. I think that was really his coming of age as a Test cricketer.
Quick single, direct hit would have been interesting, but that 100 will be career-changing. That's a knock that Aiden Markram can be enormously proud of.
Even though the cricket was really good, I hated what I saw from David Warner with that run out of AB de Villiers, when he was screaming and shouting at Markram. It wasn't at AB de Villiers.
Thought it was just a bit over the top, some of the Australian celebrations, a lot of the chirp that was going on. Yeah, a little bit over top, and you could sense the series was heating up.
The ICC getting involved with that as well, with Lyon getting in some trouble.
Nathan Lyon's dropping of the ball on AB de Villiers was seen by match referee Jeff Crow as playing outside the spirit of the game.
Lyon was charged with a level 1 offence, and that's conduct contrary to the spirit of cricket.
I was seriously disappointed in what I heard from the Australians. The incessant chat, that's a polite word I guess, that was going on from Australia to the South Africans was, I think, extremely poor.
Well, I mean, having played against Australia a lot, you know, they play the game one way, really. They like to play the game on the front foot. They like to sort of the bully mentality, and it just was unnecessary, really. I think a lot of the stuff that was going on in that first Test match, the sledging, the abuse.
I'm going to give you an insight, actually. I'll give you a bit of a heads up here. They had to go at Markram about his shirt not being ironed for the entire time he batted. You know, I mean, what's that about?
I made reference to it on commentary on quite a few occasions, where I think what is happening on the cricket field with all the abuse and the sledging is just not cricket.
Just the incessant, I'm going to call it garbage, the incessant garbage that was going on the whole time from the Australians annoyed me to such an extent where I had to turn my stump mics down. It was annoying me so much. I was getting so annoyed in the commentary box. So that was really disappointing.
I think what happened is the Australians pushed South Africa too far, and then they reacted, and unfortunately it blew up, and it was not good for our game.
Immensely strong cricket played by the Australians thus far in the match. We're into the 4th day now, and that victory target of 417 is hardly the story, because the pressure cooker of animosity between these two sides is about to boil over.
Two times knock him out. With the left, with the right, knock him out, knock him out, knock him out for the night.
Darren Lehmann has given David Warner his backing, confirming he will remain as vice-captain as the ICC investigate an off-field incident between the batsman and South African wicketkeeper Quinton de Kock.
CCTV footage from the players' tunnel showed the pair involved in a war of words at tea on day 4 of the first Test.
You know, stump mics, we could hear a lot of stuff going on, and it was just a matter of time, I think, till someone was pushed too far, and ultimately that's exactly what happens. I think in the end, Quinton de Kock was pushed too far and reacted, and the man on the receiving end didn't appreciate taking a word of advice from Quinny.
Warner had to be pulled away by some of his teammates, including the captain, Steve Smith.
Who started it? I don't know.
As far as I'm aware, we didn't get personal.
From what I've heard, there was a lot of personal stuff being said to and from.
Faf can say what he likes, I guess.
It needs to stay on the field when you're chirping each other. It doesn't need to go any further than that.
I'm all for a bit of banter, a bit of sledging out on the field, but once it starts to get a bit personal and taken off the field in stairwells and dress, I mean, that's just, you just don't like to see that.
It was horrible. It was horrible for the game. It really was poor for the game.
I know it was all on YouTube. I have still not seen what took place in that tunnel. I prefer to just stay away from all the controversy and all that. I like to concentrate on the cricket that was going on.
But going back on the park, South Africa got blown away, simply blown away by Mitchell Starc with that reverse swing.
Once things are going for him and he gets his tail up, he's a handful.
And that Mitchell Starc spell at the end, that was sort of the sealer.
That is so good from Mitchell Starc.
It was a good start to what's always a tough test series in South Africa.
South Africa had a number of players in that first test match that didn't have enough cricket under their belt, and I think that showed, and it allowed Australia to land the first punch.
Impressive and pretty threatening stuff from the Australians. So hostilities moved to Port Elizabeth. Interesting place. 4 years ago, it was a great fight back by Graham Smith's team, and particularly by Dale Steyn, that got the South Africans back into the series in Port Elizabeth. Remember how the ball reverse swung then? Well, it was to reverse swing this time around as well. Just one change to the South African side. Lungi Ngidi came in for Morne Morkel. The Australians were unchanged. Steve Smith won the toss again, chose to bat first, and then the sparks flew.
I certainly don't think I baited Kagiso in any way.
That might be out LBW here.
I don't think there was any intent to be physical.
You're not allowed to make contact with another player.
I'm not going to call it a shoulder charge. I'm not going to call it a shoulder barge. I'm going to call it a shoulder brush.
Rabada was over the top with his celebration of the wicket and was really in the batsman's face, Steve Smith.
And you don't mind if those reactions maybe losing a percentage of his match fee, but when it went down to him earning extra points, going over the mark and going to be banned for 2 games, then he's letting the team down.
If I knew that I did it deliberately, then I wouldn't have gone into contest. But honestly, I didn't even feel contact in that moment because I was just so pumped up. I didn't feel any contact at all. If I did it deliberately, then I wouldn't have contested.
Whether he's shoulder charge, whether they accidentally bump, whatever, it shouldn't happen on the field.
I've let myself down and the team down, but I have to move forward. And I have to see if I do get banned, I have to see it as a big learning curve and not repeat the same mistake.
Obviously the celebrations and the madness just before it doesn't help the situation, but I don't think there's any malicious intent. I certainly don't think it was anything that needed banning.
Look, you want to come up against the best, and right now it's obviously in the hands of the ICC.
I would have loved to be playing the next game. Well, I don't know whether I'll be playing or not, but yeah, it's not looking good.
When the match referee mentioned that there's bigger things to play for you, and that's why I didn't want to ban Davey Warner for 2 test matches and make it a level 3 offence, is because he wants him to play the rest of the series. It's 2 big teams playing. So I just said I would hope that the same would apply to KG.
If he's there, he's there. If he's not, he's not. It's you want to see guys enjoying themselves and getting in the battle, and it's just about ensuring that they don't go over the line.
The St George's brass band.
I can't remember playing a game where they haven't been here. Differing opinions on the band, Mikey.
I have no problem with them, Smithy. Absolutely no problem with them.
I don't know why the umpires have suddenly put a halt on things. I wonder if the band are moving out of town. I think they are. Oh, that's a real shame.
Well, they're back. And the umpires are signaling they can't hear any nicks or anything.
I don't think the umpires were asking them to stop. I think they were asking them to just cut it out as the ball was being bowled.
Well, I've been at noisier stadiums.
It's a bit of a loss to this occasion in Port Elizabeth. Steve Smith will be saying to his team in that dressing room, not only are we in the game, you could argue we're ahead of it because we've got the lead.
Oh, absolutely. 90 runs to play with, and the ball's moving. He knows, everyone knows that starting against reverse swing is really tough. They needed some big players to stand up.
That's so well timed. Thundered through cover by a fine player who's in good touch.
He actually sent a tweet out after the incident in the stairwell in Durban. Sent a tweet out that said, this is going to be a series to remember. And from the moment I read that tweet, the game hadn't finished in Durban. The moment I read that tweet, I knew that they were going to be in trouble, the Australians, for the rest of this Test series. And AB de Villiers is going to do his very best to make sure that he could actually turn the tide, which he did.
Yeah, AB's class. There was a stage in that game where the game was in the balance. He came out the next morning, got to his 100, batted with the tail, took South Africa to a really good total.
Well, he changed the game. I think you'd have to say that AB's innings put South Africa on top and kept them there. That was the master stroke that really put South Africa on top. And as we know, AB de Villiers is capable of things like that. He's a fantastic batsman, a great batsman, and he showed it there.
His real drive throughout the series has been what's impressed me the most, his desire to want to get stuck in.
His knock in that test match, I think, turned the whole series around for South Africa. He walked in, the game had stagnated, South Africa was still behind the game. If they had just got level with Australia, you felt that it would have been difficult for them to win that test match. So he came, he played positive, he read the situation well, and then put on an AB de Villiers masterclass.
This is a big spell from KG Rabada. He's turning this test match in the favour of South Africa.
Reverse swing in Port Elizabeth, that came into the game big time. Both sides are reversing. Rabada has the ability, and this is the thing about Rabada. Rabada reverse swings the ball both ways at 145 k's per hour, and you can't tell what he's doing.
Oh, beautifully bowled. Wonderful bowling from Rabada.
There's 5 wickets in the first innings, set the game up. But it was for me that second innings after the AB de Villiers 100, you know, that first 6 overs with the new ball, watching him run in at David Warner, 150 k's an hour, swinging the ball both ways. The intensity of that sort of half an hour, 40 minutes of test match cricket is one of the best that I've seen for a very long time. And in the end, knocked him over.
Bowled him. What a beauty.
You could just see, you know, how emotional, how much that meant to him.
Well bowled, KG.
Wrecker-in-chief for the South Africans has been brilliant.
The cream came to the top with Rabada and de Villiers. What they did in that second test match, the way they did it, the way they went about it was just outstanding and gave them their side, you know, that advantage to bounce back, and the way they bounced back was very, very impressive.
South Africa level the series.
Just a reversal of the way things went from the first test into the second test, and not unexpected. I think two sides very evenly matched, and that came out loud and clear in that particular game.
South Africa has levelled the series, courtesy of that man-of-the-match performance by Kagiso Rabada. Now attention turns to the charges levelled against him, and the question is, will he play in this series again?
If you look at that time and time again, I went down to the production van and I watched that incident 10 times the afternoon before the sanctions were announced, and I watched it the next morning 10 times in the van after the sanctions were announced. My view is exactly the same both times. You shouldn't have contact, it's a non-contact sport, but it wasn't vicious, it wasn't totally intentional. I've seen far worse in the cricket field and people got away with it.
The reason why Cricket South Africa fought the case because we didn't think that it merited a suspension.
South African bowler Kagiso Rabada has been cleared to play in the final 2 test matches against Australia following a 6-hour hearing.
Him being available for us lifts everybody.
Thankfully, I think common sense prevailed with the overturning of that ban.
I think he was very, very lucky. I would have gone and taken a lotto ticket out if I was Rabada after being turned over. And I'm not trying to stay on my high horse. I did plenty of things on the cricket field, you know, that I shouldn't have done, or I pushed the boundaries, I sledged too much, all those things. I'm not saying, this is not the pot calling the kettle black, I'm just saying what I see.
I think young Kagiso got the message loud and clear as a result of all that, and I think since then everything's been fine.
People talk about where's Test cricket going, where's the future of Test cricket. This is, for me, it's an important part of Test cricket, is the battles that you face, the small battles. That is, you know, KG running in for 15 overs, trying to get someone out, and eventually when he gets him out, he has to show that passion. Otherwise, you can just put a bowling machine and a robot to bat.
I don't want him to rein it in. I want him to respect other people. Don't go in their space. I got fired up when I was a fast bowler, but I never, ever went into anyone's face or went into their space. You like to have your own space as a human being. You don't want anyone invading that space. And especially when you're a sportsman and you have just been dismissed or you have just done less than you would have liked to have done, it's even worse for someone to then invade your space.
No, I won't change the way I express myself, but I just will get far away from the batter.
Yeah, I thought we behaved really well this game. I don't think we've got any indiscretions.
Wow, just like 4 years ago, a brilliant fight back by the South Africans to level the series at 1-1. These are the dressing rooms here in Johannesburg. Dressing rooms can be funny places, and they sure will have had different moods leading in to the third test at Newlands. Remember, the South Africans had had the ban on KG Rabada, a two-match ban, overturned. The Australians were not impressed at all. In fact, Steve Smith said as much at his press conference. Now, Morne Morkel was back for the South Africans, searching for his 300th wicket. Temba Bavuma was back playing for the South Africans as well. The Australians again unchanged. This ground has featured some remarkable matches between the sides. In 2011, remember that one? The Australians bowled out for 47. And then in 2014, Ryan Harris bowling quite brilliantly to snatch a last-ditch victory and take the series. Well, this year's Test match was to become one of the most famous of all. Or should we say, infamous.
It was really nice coming back to Cape Town. It's been bowled with the Supersport coverage, 1-1 in the series. There's been a lot of things going on. The series was up for grabs. I was really excited.
Well, couldn't have set up better for South Africa, really. They got a wonderful record at Newlands. One in Port Elizabeth, arriving Cape Town after a little break with the confidence.
The feeling was we've got a series on our hands here, and I felt that the momentum had swung quite significantly back towards South Africa.
To be honest, I don't particularly believe too much in this momentum thing, because every test match is a new test match. You know, teams that have lost can find ways of rebounding. I just wanted to see the pitch. I just wanted a good, even pitch in Cape Town for some good cricket.
I was so excited about the test match in Cape Town because the track there is terrific. It had a little bit in it for everybody, batsmen, bowlers and spin bowlers. And it was all set up, wonderful crowd and turnout also. That you always get in Cape Town, which just added to the flavour of what was a very competitive test series.
Dean played a good role in Port Elizabeth, but you know that's in his dogged style, his determined style. And then in Cape Town, he almost came a little bit out of his shell and played with a little bit more freedom.
He came out, he was slightly more positive.
Dean Ergo, I mean, the first innings, that 141, the third time he's carried his bat. I mean, that's an amazing feat for someone. I've always admired his tenacity, his guts, his determination, so that was good to see. And he had to do it. I mean, someone had to do it, otherwise they're in trouble, because Cummins, the way that he dug so deep, he actually made the comment after the day's play. He said he felt like he was a passenger for most of the day, and he thought, hang on a sec, I've got to start pulling my weight here, and then he did.
It was just really pleasing from Australians' point of view to see him, you know, really starting to come of age as a genuine fast bowler, and he showed it in that particular innings, didn't he?
I've always been a huge fan of Pat Cummins, and some people have criticised me of thinking I'm having a love affair with Pat Cummins, and I'm about to come out of the closet because I like him so much.
Oh, great cricket. Really, Australia hot at the moment.
I just love the way he goes about it. I love the way he plays the game. I love his passion.
He's always at you. He's always giving his all. And he was rewarded with some wickets and got Australia back into that game.
He had a spell of, what was it, sort of 7 overs and 4 for 7 or something crazy in that little spell, which was unbelievable stuff. So we were set for a terrific test match there. And then, of course, it all went horribly downhill from there.
The South Africans had inched their way into a 56-run lead, but the match still hung finely in the balance. Aiden Markram was playing especially well, and it was the Australian bowlers who seemed to suddenly be struggling. And then up here in this commentary booth area, the Supersport commentary team spotted something very unusual, something that was to become a seminal moment, not just in the series, but perhaps for the Australian game in the modern era at large.
I was at the back of the commentary box, and you know, the guys mentioned, gee, go and watch what's going to come on, and we went forward and had a look-see.
The Australians really working on the ball, trying to get that reverse. The South Africans did it so well all day yesterday. The older you've got, so important to get that ball to reverse for the Australians.
After this, just having a look at what's happening there. What is happening, Vijay?
What are you talking about? What's Faf doing? this is the umpires having a chat to Cameron Bancroft. I think they're asking him about what he had in his pocket. That looks like the cover that you put your sunglasses in. So that's what the umpires were talking to Cameron Bancroft about, it looks like.
At the time when I saw it going on, I couldn't believe what I was watching. It was the story unfolding in front of us.
We have world-class cameramen that work for Supersport. Those guys are trained. They've got, there's 30 cameras that are slaving away all the time. There's 18 man cameras. I mean, it was just a magnificent piece of camera work and teamwork from the cameramen, and also from the production room with Alvin and, as a director. Just the way it was all sewn together in real time on the big screen as well. That was the big thing. People don't remember the big screen was also important, and that's independently operated from our broadcast. So that was the big thing, and Bancroft panicked clearly when he saw it on the big screens.
Well, I didn't actually see it live. I had come off commentary, I was walking behind the box, going into that little room that we sit down and watch the game in Cape Town. And a commentator from another network came to me and said, "Did you see that?" I said, "What?" And they explained to me what had taken place. When I then saw it on film, I was shocked.
I was really disappointed, I've got to say. I must admit I wasn't in commentary at the time. I was sitting out the front of the commentary box and, just picking up what was going on the screen, like a lot of people. So you're sort of saying, what is going on here? So that's my initial reaction. This doesn't look good.
There's been another moment this afternoon that is already causing a lot of attention.
Cameron Bancroft, was he applying something to the ball? He's definitely trying to get a shine on the ball. There was a bit of a reverse as well at the same stage. He seems to put something back into his right pocket.
It could be that there's a walkie-talkie down to Peter Hanscom, but we don't know enough about that.
There's Hanscom onto the field, a bit of a chit-chat, as if we're not really having a chat.
And then what we saw from Cameron Bancroft was he undid his trousers, and whatever was in his right pocket, something yellow, a yellow foreign object, was then placed down the front.
And then finally, the umpires have a chat with Bancroft, produces a black handkerchief or a sunglass wrap or whatever it may be, and that's all we know. And then play continues with the same ball, so there was no need to change the ball.
I don't care who you are, you can't tamper with the ball. Now, we don't know, we can't make accusations because you don't know. I don't care if it's Australia or South Africa, you just can't do the things that it looks like that we all think it's doing. So I think we've just got to get to the bottom of why that has happened and what was it. You've got to own up, you've been caught, you've got to own up and say, well, what was it that you were hiding? It's as simple as that. You can't have that in the game.
On myself, I saw an opportunity to potentially use some tape, get some granules from the rough patches on the wicket, and tried to I guess change the ball condition.
Never in my life had I ever considered or seen anybody take a foreign object onto the field. I've heard of guys sucking sweets to add sugar to their saliva, or other fingernail stories or whatever, but to actually take a piece of sandpaper on, I just don't know or consider how they thought they would have got away with it.
I guess once I was sighted on the screens and having done that, I panicked quite a lot, and that obviously resulted in me shoving it down my trousers.
Ultimately, Australia cheated, and whether it's a desperation to win, whether it was a culture that had been going on for a while, we don't know, but it was just really not on and pretty despicable, to be honest.
I'm not proud of what's happened. It's not within the spirit of the game. My integrity, the team's integrity, the leadership group's integrity has come into question, and rightfully so. You can ask questions as much as you like, but I can promise you this is the first time that it's happened.
Look at the Ashes series that we've just played. You look through virtually all of those test matches and they reverse swung the ball in sometimes conditions that you wouldn't expect the ball to reverse. So I don't understand why they've changed their method for this one game.
Do you think that maybe they haven't changed their method?
I don't know. I mean, Steve said it's the first time they've tried it, so that he's saying they have, and there was no evidence that they were doing this in the Ashes series from what I've seen.
I personally wasn't aware of anything going on throughout that series, but it is disappointing for Test cricket and for
and for cricket in general.
Rorty probably having a bit of fun and a bit of a field day with it. He's copped a bit from Australians and Australian crowds, so he's probably just getting a little bit of his own back.
No, the coaches weren't involved. It was purely the players and the leadership group.
The first I saw of it was on that screen, and I got obviously straight on the walkie-talkie and said something to Peter, and there was a couple of expletives in there. And then I spoke to the players at tea time.
Being the leader of the team, I'm incredibly sorry for I guess trying to bring the game into disrepute the way that we did today.
We do pride ourselves on playing hard but fair, and this is an instance where that wasn't the case, and a lot of Australians, were disappointed, because the Australian captain's held in very high regard, and as is the Australian cricket team.
Steve, will you consider stepping down as captain afterwards?
No, I won't be considering stepping down. I still think I'm the right person for the job.
Well, getting straight back into our top story, the Australian public has called for the resignation of Steve Smith.
And many former Australian cricketers agree that Steve Smith's position as captain is untenable.
I think the general feeling is that it's going to be very difficult for Steve Smith to keep his job as captain.
I think it's very, very difficult for you to stay in your job as a captain of any cricketing side. You wouldn't get that in an under-12 game, let alone captain of Australia.
We've got some breaking news right at the start of day 4. This is a media release from Cricket Australia. They have just literally announced minutes ago, after discussions with Stephen Smith and also David Warner, that they have agreed to stand down as captain and vice-captain for the remainder of this Test match.
Somehow, the Australians came to some sort of conclusion that they front up at the press conference, Smith and Bancroft admitting that they did this, that it was going to be, that was it, the admission was there and they were guilty and it was going to be sort of forgotten about. I mean, you're a screw loose, I think, if you're thinking that's going to work, because that was really badly handled. There should have been much better plan, because we know next morning things went crazy the next morning, and then unfortunately from then on it continued for some time.
It's a very sad day for Australian cricket. One of the unique things about the game of cricket is that it's to be played not only within the laws of the game, but in the spirit of the game. And activities on the field yesterday in Cape Town are neither within the laws of the game or within the spirit of the game.
Shocked and bitterly disappointed by the news from South Africa. It seemed completely beyond belief that the Australian cricket team had been involved in cheating. After all, our cricketers are role models, and cricket is synonymous with fair play. How can our team be engaged in cheating like this?
But we start with a staggering story from Cape Town, where Australia have admitted ball tampering.
Cricket Australia outlined their plan to investigate the ball tampering scandal. Well, Cricket Australia Chief Executive James Sutherland is heading to South Africa.
It's the morning after the day before, and what a day it was. It's been termed one of Australia's darkest days in cricket.
The reaction has been pretty brutal. There is no doubt about that. This is a major sporting crisis for Australia.
Australia have admitted ball tampering in the third test against South Africa.
So it's no exaggeration. Everybody is talking about it.
Michael Vaughan has strong views on the subject. He says Steve Smith, his team and all the management will have to accept that whatever happens in their careers, they will all be known for trying to cheat the game. He then went on to say, the more you think about what has happened in Cape Town, the more I realise the leadership needs to be replaced. Positions are untenable, and I say that with the utmost respect for most of that group. Former Test captain, a teammate of Steve Smith, Michael Clarke, he's reacted as well. He said, what the have I just woken up to? Please tell me this is a bad dream.
I hope people can forgive. I think Steve Smith's such a great young man. He's got a heart of gold, and I just think he's made a big mistake, unfortunately.
It's a sad moment for Australian sport. It's time now to try and, make right for sport in Australia as a whole.
what on earth possesses you to do something so stupid is beyond me.
Like many, I'm deeply troubled by the events in Cape Town. Some have failed our culture, making a serious error of judgment.
Unbelievable, really, to think that you can get away with that. The fact that they've actually planned to do this, they've spoken in the dressing room.
This is a shock to the Australian psyche, to their system, and I think they're very disappointed. I think that the reaction that it got in Australia, I'm not surprised about that. And I think the ICC and Cricket Australia are in a position where they have to take action, they have to take strong action, they can't let this go.
I feel a little bit let down. You know, they really have dropped our nose in it. You can't bring an object onto the field and start rubbing on the cricket ball, and you've got all the cameras on you. I mean, it's an embarrassment. It really is an embarrassment.
The reaction was, it was always going to be, big, but I didn't think that it would be so big, that it would get to that sort of level of, disappointment in the Australian cricket team. I think at times it got over the top, very vitriolic sort of responses at times, from the Prime Minister down. It was quite extraordinary to sort of have politicians having a say in this sort of situation.
It should not be down to the Cricket Australia or the Prime Minister of Australia or the public of Australia to be bringing pressure. It should have been the ICC having regulations that are applied immediately. Simple as that. It should not be down to any public.
Steve Smith was banned for one game by the ICC. That's the fourth and final test against South Africa. He was also fined his entire match fee. Cameron Bancroft, who tampered with the ball, wasn't banned, but he was fined 75% of his match fee, warned and given 3 demerit points. One more point on his record in the next 2 years would see him get a suspension.
All 3 players who have been reported will leave South Africa tomorrow. Their replacements in the Australian squad for the 4th test here in Johannesburg will be Matthew Renshaw, Glenn Maxwell and Joe Burns.
Anytime you get selected to play for your country, if I do get selected when I'm over there, it's something you've got to just try and relish.
Steve believes, given the current circumstances, it's in the best interest of the Rajasthan Royals that he steps down as captain so the team can get ready for the start of the IPL.
What do you reckon the bans are going to be for the captain and the vice-captain, the former captain and the former vice-captain?
I don't know, 6 to 12 months. I think they've probably been a bit light on this in the past, and now's the time. Yeah, now's the time to do something about it.
We were expecting them to be banned for a long time. I can't see these guys playing cricket next summer.
The process that the Cricket Australia board has worked through over the last few days has been exhaustive to arrive as best we can at decisions that are sanctions that are representative of an appropriate measure given the incidents that took place in Cape Town on Saturday.
There you go, James Sutherland speaking. Now, let's bring you more on that breaking news then. If you're just joining us, Steve Smith, David Warner banned for 12 months, Cameron Bancroft 9 months.
I think being rubbed out of the game for 12 months for ball tampering, Steve Smith's not Pablo Escobar. He made a mistake. He's a good person. So I think the penalties that were handed out to those 3 were very harsh.
Some people are saying the bans were too strong. I don't. I think they were right.
To all of my teammates, to fans of cricket all over the world, and to all Australians who are disappointed and angry, I'm sorry.
I've had time to reflect on the events in Cape Town and on the punishments handed down to me by the ICC and Cricket Australia, and I want to say that I'm very sorry.
I made a serious error of judgment, and I now understand the consequences.
I am extremely disappointed and regret my actions.
I'll do everything I can to make up for my mistake and the damage it's caused.
I'm sorry too to those people who've looked up to me around the world, especially the kids. No, I'm a role model and I've not acted like one in this instance.
Anytime you think about making a questionable decision, think about who you're affecting. You're affecting your parents, and to see the way my old man's been and
thanks everybody.
And my mum, it hurts. And I can't remember what else. But it's, yeah, I just want to say I'm sorry and for the pain that I've, I guess, brought to Australia and the fans and the public. It's devastating, and I'm truly sorry.
He is a genuinely nice guy. I think that comes through loud and clear, and he just had this moment of madness, allowing it to go on, and he's felt the full force of a poor decision it was. And so, all those emotions came out when he finally faced the media back in Australia.
Definitely, we feel sympathetic to a person who has made a mistake and has to pay the price for it in whatever way that is decided upon that. So yes, we do feel sympathetic towards the guys who have found themselves in hot water.
I never like seeing people hurt or the disappointment. I think it's just a realisation of so many things for them, and you hope that they learn. I mean, I would love to have a conversation with Steve Smith and try and understand, what sort of culture is that how he wanted his team to play? Was he forced into it by the coach or some senior players? Or, I think that's probably, for me, will be his biggest disappointment, that he never actually stamped his own culture on that environment. Or maybe he did, and it backfired. So, in terms of sympathy, yes, when you watch this unfold, you think these are young guys who've made a mistake. In particular for me, Bancroft and Smith, I felt for them. Dave Warner for me is a guy that consistently pushes the boundary lines. For long periods of time now, I think he's had this coming. And unfortunately for him, it's hit the wall.
They don't play any more tests until India come to Australia. By then, these players may have served their time. I'm not sure whether Warner's going to be all that welcome, though, following what we've heard in the last day or two about the division in the camp, and he's been pretty much ostracised.
Some Australian players are outraged at Warner after it was claimed he was seen drinking champagne in a hotel bar in Cape Town amid the ongoing crisis. Now, this is Warner sitting alone at the team's hotel in Cape Town earlier this week. He stood down as vice-captain for the rest of the third test after the ball tampering was revealed. Reports also claimed that he's removed himself from the team WhatsApp group.
The silence from David Warner has been deafening.
Warner said he needed time to think before making a public statement over the matter, although he has posted on social media.
To the fans and the lovers of the game who have supported and inspired me on my journey as a cricketer, I want to sincerely apologise for betraying your trust in me. South Africa is a fine cricketing nation and deserves better from its guests and deserve better from me. In the back of my mind, I suppose there is a tiny ray of hope. That I may one day be given the privilege of playing for my country again. But I'm resigned to the fact that may never happen.
I suppose the one thing that surprises me is that Darren Lehmann has kept his job and has not resigned. There's been a lot of reports that he's resigned.
Reports on Tuesday suggested that Lehmann had handed in his letter of resignation. However, Cricket Australia CEO James Sutherland denied those rumours. Turns out that there was some truth to those reports.
I just want to let you know that this will be my last test as head coach of the Australian cricket team as I'm stepping down.
Once I spoke to Darren and spoke to Buff about why, and he said that his kids are getting threatened, his wife's getting threatened. When it starts to boil over into that because of this silly hysteria, then something needs to be done.
My family and I have copped a lot of abuse over the last week, and it's taken its toll on them. As many of you sit in this room will know, life on the road means a lot of time away from our loved ones, and after speaking with my family at length over the last few days, it's the right time to step away.
It's good to see that Buff put his family first, and that's why he sort of switched decisions in 24 hours.
Despite telling media yesterday that I'm not resigning, after viewing Steve and Cameron's hurting, it's only fair that I make this decision. It's been a wonderful experience coaching the Australian cricket team. I hope the team rebuilds from this and the Australian public find it in their hearts to forgive these young men and get behind the 11 who are going to take the field tomorrow.
I think the media had a job to do. What didn't help the case is we found out there were some lies, we found out there was some more other stuff coming out. I'm still not convinced we've heard the whole story. Every single day there was something, whether it was a press conference in Australia and the guys coming back, or suddenly Darren Lehmann resigning as the coach. The media beast was fed every day, and those journalists from Australia hit it hard, and they had a job to do. Our journalists are a little bit softer here, so it was the Australian journalists who really got in. And I was really at the coalface because I was reporting for Supersport at the press conferences all the time and doing the live crossings and that sort of business. But also the fact that I'd experienced the Australian side of things and the South African side of things, I had a real feel as to what was going on, and I thought it was about right. And I felt for the South African players because they played so well, but the headlines are all about the players who are off and banned and sent home and banished and disgraced Australian cricket and upset the Prime Minister.
Although it always will be remembered, there's nothing we can do about it. It'll be remembered for what it was. There was also some good cricket, let's not forget about it.
They're going for quick singles, could be dangerous. Oh, I think he's gone.
Oh, that's a great catch. That is a blinder. That is unbelievable stuff from Markram.
Brilliant from Warner. I mean, he announced at the beginning of the series, he all of a sudden left out of the second game. Will he get another opportunity to get his 300 wicket? He then gets the opportunity because Ngidi gets injured, and he comes in and has a performance like that. It was just a great moment for him in Cape Town, where he now lives. His family were there. So it was fairy tale stuff, and whoever did that script writing got it right.
Chasing it, he didn't need to play it, he did. And Morne Morku picks up his 310th wicket.
The way they engulfed him immediately, everyone engulfed him. I don't think I've ever seen a player get swamped by his teammates like that. I mean, that just told me volumes about Morne Morku, the player, and I was so pleased for him. He deserves that. He's just a champion.
Just being there for his 300th wicket, having played with him a long time, knowing the man, I think for him to have his family there, see the emotion come through him and the appreciation from his teammates, I think it just made it really special. So that is a moment that I think he will remember most fondly, I think probably out of his whole career, that's probably what he will take with him.
This is over the top. Vernon Philander comes around and takes it, and that's it. South Africa win. Emphatic win here in Cape Town. And a dark day for Australian cricket.
5 wickets for Morne Morku. Brilliant performance. Match-winning performance.
Fantastic performance. The people thoroughly enjoyed it, and all over South Africa, I'm sure they enjoyed it too. Well done.
If I get asked the question again, what is your most memorable or special day? It'll definitely be today.
This is the players' race at the Wanderers. South Africa are 2-1 up in the series, and the Australians are reeling. Tim Payne has taken over the reins of captaincy. Matt Renshaw and Joe Burns have flown from Australia and will play immediately. So too, Peter Hanscom and Chad Sayers on debut. The South Africans are unchanged. Faf du Plessis wins the toss and bats first. It's over to Dean Elgar and Aidan Markram.
Right, here we go. That's beautifully played by Markram. Markram has looked excellent in this innings.
Oh, that's nicely played. He's just helped it on his way.
Down the pitch he comes, through that gap at extra cover. It's a superb 100. At 2:10 in the afternoon of the first day's play, Aidan Markram brings the crowd of the Wanderers to its feet.
Well, Markram, I don't need to speak about him again. I've always rated him, and I'm glad to see that he's not just getting one test match century in a series, that he can go out and repeat that sort of a performance. He's that good a player.
He ends up as the highest run scorer for the series. For us, he's been a fantastic find.
He's just an outstanding talent, mature, very well organised mentally and technically, and a guy with a huge future. I love watching him play. He's excellent to watch.
Markram goes to 150. It's a fine Good Friday.
Temba Bavuma, I was happy to see that he was heading towards 3 figures because he doesn't get enough of those, and he still didn't get one.
Temba Bavuma is going to finish 5 away from what would have been his second Test 100.
Bitterly disappointed for him. I've been on the end of being in those late 90s and being not out and left stranded. And the fact he's only got 100, we'd have loved to just back it up with another 100. To have 100 against England, 100 against Australia would have been great for him. But don't take away from anything the fact that how well he played to get to that 95.
He batted well. He needed to bat well. He had come back from injury. failed first test match he came back, and this test match he came back and did a lot better.
Yeah, I think there was a period where he got one run in an hour of play, I think 40-odd balls, so he had to fight hard. And then everything just sort of clicked from there, and he ended up playing a wonderful innings. Unfortunately for him, got caught with 10 and 11.
He did throw some profanities, but he was very disappointed. I kind of felt for him. It kind of took away the disappointment that I had, and you almost had to give him the shoulder to kind of cry on.
The one thing that this week brought us was a game of cricket when we thought we get out in the middle and we forget everything, and I think it's it was a good place for some of the players to get out and just play cricket again. It hasn't gone the way we would like, but we've got 3 more days and we'll fight as hard as we can possibly fight to make this game very competitive. But at the moment, we're a long way behind the 8 ball.
Oh, this is very difficult. It's Dean Elgar. It's very difficult. Oh, what a fantastic catch that is!
Almost fell off my chair.
Incredible scene to finish the innings. The South African captain coming to the crease, and he's not in good touch.
He had been getting good results for his team, leading his team well, but not getting results for himself.
For him, it was important to perform. We all have had tough series, and this one was for him, especially with all the off-field dramas. The captain has had to keep himself together.
That's a bad blow to Faf. He's hurt here.
When he got hit on that finger again and you could see it bleeding and he was in serious pain, he decided, I ain't going anywhere.
I think it was a perfect way for him to round off a terrific series for him and his team, bouncing back from poor form and nailing it down with a wonderful 100.
Everyone has their own personal pride. They want to perform, and this innings, he has done it.
Well, ultimately, that's been the key difference in the series, hasn't it? That South Africa have got hundreds, they've been able to post totals. We haven't seen one Australian 100.
The South Africans now lead by 300.
400, 500, 600. Commanding position for South Africa.
In an ideal world, 450 would have been enough on this deck. But leading the series 2-1, trying to take one result out of it.
A lot of times when you've got a big lead and you go into the last day, you could float a little bit and not run in with some intensity.
All I had in my mind that time when I read these grateful words.
First ball of the day. Immediately on target. Immediately on target.
200th test wicket for Vernon Philander.
And those at home who would have been hanging around a bit at home to see how things progress, to see if they should head down, start heading down, or you might be too late.
There's an edge and another one. Unbelievable start from Vernon Philander. That's number 6.
Yes, that was amazing that Vernon did that. It means we didn't have to bowl that much.
That is gone, caught short. What a way to finish the test.
As we all know, there was a lot of incidents throughout this series.
We're disappointed with the way we handled it. I suppose this group in here had a chance to show some real fight and determination today, and unfortunately we weren't able to because I think mentally we weren't quite there.
The stigma will stick with them for a while. They'll travel around the world and somebody in the crowd will shout something, but you have got to be thick-skinned. You have got to understand that once you go out onto the field, you have a job to do and try and get that job done.
At the moment there's a fair bit of disappointment and borderline embarrassment in our change rooms.
That underarm incident that lasted for so long, stuck with them for so long, but Australia have bounced back.
Look, I've really enjoyed the cricket that's been played. A couple of the dramas have overshadowed what's been a really good series.
You always look who gets a tick, who gets a cross. That's just the way it is. Good or bad, cricket's a performance-based game. We all want to say he's a nice guy and he's a nice fella, but you can't know what they might be. They still had a poor tour.
From South Africa's point of view, I'd be really encouraged by what I've seen. Young Markram, Rabada, Bavuma. You've got a host of young players there that are doing so well. Ngidi, young quickie. There's probably 4 or 5 of those youngsters that are 23 years of age or younger have performed really well. So they've all enhanced their reputations, and that's only a good thing from South Africa's point of view.
With the Australian sides, who enhanced their reputation? Pat Cummins leads that attack. He gets a big tick. Hazelwood gets a tick. Mitchell Starc gets a tick. Tim Payne gets a tick. Nathan Lyon probably gets a tick. Warner Smith get pass marks. with their performance on the field with the bat. They didn't have the best series, but they still played some pretty good innings here or there. The rest probably struggled.
We're back a step. You know, we thought we'd made a couple of forward steps as a result of the Ashes, but I think we've taken 3 steps back.
Not only has South Africa won the series, I think they've dominated. And Australia will leave South Africa a broken team. And not often can you say that about an Australian team. They will get on that plane, the Qantas plane, back to Australia, a broken team.
The first time then that the South Africans had won at home against Australia since unity. What a series this has been, and what a story we've had to tell. Days of heartache, days of inspiration, days of pain, and days of glory. It's certainly a story of cricket that we'll never forget.
I know when we play other opposition, you can feel the toughness on the field, and off the field, you appreciate that it was a good battle. But it's not war. I mean, it's ridiculous to think that playing cricket on the field is like war, because if you know the realities of war, you can't equate the two. Yes, it's a tough battle of skill, but you got to have respect for each other.